Good morning, everyone. It is the 19th of March. It is the spring solstice. I couldn't be happier. Um, we are at the beginning of the astrological season. Um, Pisces season, at the end there, it's really intense. It's all about surrender. And now we get to climb up out of the water and lay on the side of the beach and absorb some sun and just start to dry off, right? And get to present to the world of how we are. Because Aries season is all about the I am. Aries knows who he is. So we start to say, I am. So welcome to Aries season. Welcome to the new astrological year. It's a big astrological year, if we will. It's hard to say like year because it technically started in January, but astrology wise goes, it starts with Aries. So I was trying to share my screen, still haven't figured that out yet. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about Aries, and then what's going on astrologically. First and foremost, this is the first solstice we've had with Pluto and Aquarius. So um, this hasn't happened for over 240 years. So that's a big energy signature right there. Um, also, um, we're in eclipse season. We have the lunar eclipse this Saturday, and then we have the total eclipse next month. And then we have a huge conjunction with Jupiter and Uranus, who are in Taurus. And that Uranus and Taurus has been the story since it moved in there in 2018, if you've been keeping up with my channel. So a lot of movement, a lot of shifts. I also want to say what's really interesting is looking at the astrology. Um, Everything is, all the planets are kind of, except for the moon because she's always moving, um, in Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries, right? All through here. And so they're all kind of put in there together. And what's really interesting is before, I feel like when we were Pluto was in Capricorn, everything was precise down to the minute. We talked about this is what's happening. And now that it's moved into Aquarius, which is air, and the cosmos, we're seeing orbs of influence. And it's not that they weren't there before. If planets are conjunct, depending on the astrologer, I usually say 8 degrees, to me is the conjunction. Um, then they start to have that intense conversation. So now, um, all these planets are close to each other. And so they just start getting conjunct. There's lots of conversations that are happening for periods of time. And I find that different than the idea of when Pluto was in Capricorn and everything was supposed to be super succinct and this was the time and this is the date. And now we're having this influence of air come in, and it is okay. You can start to feel it, you can start to sense it. Okay, we're in it. It's like a breeze, like you can feel the breeze. Sometimes you can hear it before it gets to you, or sometimes like you can smell smoke before you see the fire. So start leaning into this new feeling, right? Start leaning into this new way of sensing. Before, when it was like, gotta be on time, checking the boxes, that real patriarchal making a list, checking it off, which, I'll still make my list, but also it's important to make a list of things that you want to come in, things that you are looking forward to, um, and things that, you want to have that conversation with. It is good to stay in the present. At the same time, welcome in this change, welcome in with things that you can see on the horizon. Because staying in the present is one thing, but being stuck with like being stuck in a box is not where we are anymore. We're in this age of Aquarius where this air is coming in. It is uplifting us up out of that box, so you can see a little bit more of the landscape. So it's important to start working with that energy as it comes in. Orbs of influence, if you will, orbs of influence. Okay, so first let's talk about the astrology of Aries. And Aries was born from Hera. And Hera was so enraged that Zeus had children without a woman. She got so enraged that boop, Aries popped out of her head. And depending on different myths, right, they will say that Aries is Hera's only child. Or sometimes they will say he was born of Zeus and Hera. But the mythology that I always read was that she was so pissed. Out came Aries. And so that is also a theme that I think you guys need to put a pin in. Okay, that Aries was born out of feminine rage, especially what's going on here in the United States and with women's reproductive rights and with this divine feminine that has risen. And that's another thing. When we were in that patriarchal society, it was all like work, 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 right? That was very Capricorn driven. And now that Pluto is in Aquarius, this divine feminine has risen. It is about more receiving, right? Not going out, finding that masculine energy goes out, right? Our feminine receives. And so we are in Aries season, which is fire. It is cardinal. It is initiating, right? That initiation is masculine. But understand we've got to start balancing this more with that feminine who is, listening, who is receiving, who is standing and getting the wind in her hair or in our hair. But it is the royal feminine. When I talk masculine and feminine, it is not gender or pronouns. It is feminine receives, feminine's intuition, masculine is how we move, right? And so as people, they have to be firing on all cylinders, no matter how you identify or how you or your pronouns. So please know that. So here comes Aries, born out of feminine rage. He was first known as the Lord of the Dance, and then he became the Lord of Warcraft, which is also very interesting. Most people or communities that revered Aries had all his shrines outside of town because at the beginning there, he was known just to start fights. He loved war just for the combat. We had a name for those people in Alabama where I was growing up. They were kind of called rednecks. They're just going to come to fucking fight. And back in 2018 or 2019, he's ruled by Mars, right? The god of war. So, but back in 2018 or 2019, Mars and Aries went under a huge transformation with Uranus. And that's when I saw them growing up. That's when I saw Aries and Mars becoming divine masculines. And what is really interesting that I kind of forgot about the myth of Aries was that he always fought along women. He was really good friends with the Amazons. He gave the queen of the Amazons the golden girdle, which is what he did. And, then Hercules had to take it for one of his feats. But, they always said there was a lot of competition between him and Artemis, who is Diana, the female hunter of the moon, right? But I mean, and I'm sure there were. And, Eris is his sister. Eris is discord. Artemis, when we think of Aries was just going to fight. Artemis is more strategic. But it is all of that same vein, if you will. So now we have Aries, who is this divine masculine who isn't just going to go fight to fight. Aries, also when they had these shrines to Aries, he was outside of the city because he was the first line of defense. And so I want us to start thinking about this, that we are in this energy of this divine feminine that has risen. And now we're in this season of Aries, of I am, and Aries loves to fight with alongside women. And as a matter of fact, one of his daughters was raped by Poseidon, one of Poseidon's son, and he went and killed him immediately, and was taken to trial because if you guys know anything about myths, that was just kind of what they did back then was, oh, I like that one, and they would go and rape them. And Aries said, oh, okay, and then went and killed him. This is a myth. Okay. And so, and he went to trial and he was acquitted, even though that was like known as something they did back then. Nope. He said no. So he is a protector of women, especially his daughters. And so I think this is really the theme, one of the themes for this astrological season of fighting alongside women, women standing up for themselves, feminine rage, and it's nothing to be feared. But it is here on the planet. And, you know, one way that we move through wars and get through this is when we start to find our voices. So it is good to know that we have Aries in our back corner. Okay, so right now, there's a lot going on with the planets. We are at 0 degrees of Aries. Venus right now is still in Pisces, and she is in conjunction with Saturn. Venus is actually very at home in Pisces, thank God. They would say she's exalted in Pisces. And so she is now in a conjunction, like I said, with Saturn. I think he's at 12, she's at 10, or vice versa. And so with Venus in Pisces, that is bringing in this idea of, more softness. I know you guys, I just talked about war, but, or not war, but standing up for oneself. But it's also this reality check when Venus is in Pisces. So like, Pisces can be the mystic or very dreamy, but when she comes into contact with Saturn, it is that reality check. It is like knowing again who she is, what's going to be stable, and how she can move forward. So again, this is, Venus rules Taurus. So again, self-worth. Venus is social, so maybe your social groups are going to be changing, or they have changed. You know, so look for these themes coming up, and like that's what's happening right now. She's very objective. Venus becomes extremely objective when she is with Saturn. But also it's important to remember that she's also still extremely psychic because she is in Pisces. This would be a good time for restructuring the finances. Venus and Saturn, or Venus conjunct Saturn. And it says, and I wrote down maybe feeling a little melancholy. And what's interesting with that, like when Venus goes into Pisces, that is a time where she can release a lot of grief. And so I'm hoping that now, because she's conjunct Saturn, she's feeling a little more stable about that. Like she feels like she's released what she's needed to release, or she's finding practical ways to deal with her grief. So if you guys are feeling a little out of sorts, there's a lot going on in the world. We are in the seasonal change all sorts of things coming up. Aquarius, when Aquarius is in its lower vibes, it feels like the lone wolf. So if you guys are having these feelings, this would be a good time maybe to do a little research, to reach out to people, see if you need maybe a different doctor or different people you could talk to. This is always a good time to do that. I mean, anytime's a good time to do that, but also with Venus conjunct Saturn, that's a good time to do that. And right now it's important to note that Mars is now just entering Pisces. And when Mars is in Pisces, they would say he's in his detriment. Now, I don't believe any planet is ever in their detriment anymore. There's other places where they're like, hey, feel a little more comfortable. But Mars, because again, Mars going into Pisces is about surrender. That wouldn't be like Mars's strong suit back in the day. But because he did go through this, transmutation, if you will, he's coming into Pisces, and this is to him, he's in a time of meditation. So we have Venus, realizing who she is, feeling stable, seeing the changes she's got to make. And then we have Mars coming in, and he's going into a state of meditation. So he's got to go in there and surrender. This is like I don't know how long he's in there for. So I can't say 30-day, but he's in there for like, it's part of his training, right? As being a master of, martial arts or a warrior. This is part of his training. So this is just where he needs to be. So understand that, like that masculine force that is usually out doing things is now going to meditate, is now going in, is also going to where he is most psychic, as I see it, because Pisces is the mystic, but it's also leaving behind what no longer serves us. Again, I always see is dumping that toxic masculinity, dumping, Saturn and Pisces is helping us get rid of that age of Pisces, helping us get rid of narcissism, and all that's happening. And then Venus is talking with Saturn. She's feeling more stable. She's realizing, okay, maybe I need this friend group instead of that friend group. Like it's, when Pisces in its lower self is like lots of confusion, but when she's there with Saturn, it's like, oh, wait, okay, I get it. I feel good. I know who I am. The actual sun is in Aries. Aries knows who he is, so it's this I am presence that we keep moving into. Also what's in Aries is the North Node, right? What we're striving towards as a collective, we are striving towards our individualism. We are striving towards who we are. We are striving for feeling confident in that. And then Chiron is also in Aries, and Chiron is known as the wounded healer. I always call him the great healer. Chiron is shaped like a key, he's unlocking what we need to do. And this is a big time. We're going to get rid of a lot of victim consciousness. For a very long time, we didn't feel like we could show up with who we were or being authentic. And, Chiron has been in Aries for a little bit now. I don't know if I wrote that how long. I did not. Chiron's been in Aries for a minute now. But it's helping us get rid of, it's helping us find our voices again. It's like that solar plexus, that our self-esteem, right? So Chiron in Aries is allowing that for us to say, I am, that North Node's there, where we're going, the full moon in Libra, which is opposite of Aries, that's where the South Node is. That's what we're leaving behind. So lots of movement, lots of action happening in Aries. It is this courage. The North Node is, I wrote down living in the now, courage, sovereignty. Mercury is in Aries right now, and it's actually conjunct Chiron. So it's this new story that we can communicate to ourselves how we're not victims anymore. And if it comes up where we start feeling like victims, it'll shine a light on that because the sun is in there, and then we can have that, so we can get rid of that victim consciousness. And it also help us have that discussion of where maybe we keep playing it out when it is ready to go and we're ready to leave that behind. When we have this eclipse on Saturday or on Monday, I think, and I have a moon circle on Saturday, but the eclipse is actually on Monday. That's when we eclipse things in and eclipse things out. So that's a big, you would say, timeline jump, like we talked about in the other video. that we did. So this is really exciting. This is bringing in a lot of new energy. This is bringing in a lot of energy that we've been asking for, you know. This is bringing in more energy of equality. This is bringing in more, you know, energy of, you know, just feeling good of who we are in our hearts, right? And feeling good of all the healing that we've done in the past, you know, and moving forward. And I know if like we look at the planet, we're like, oh my God, but Gaia is intelligent and she knows how to rebalance and restart, no matter how much we think we're fucking it up. So just because we can't see underneath the surface, you know, she's busy at work. So always remember that there's so much happening underneath the surface, right? Um, Venus and Pisces, what's happening, you know, behind the scenes? Mars going to Pisces, what's happening behind the scenes? Our sun, of course, is in Aries, so we get to shine with where we are now. We get to shine with this new conversation, you know, with Chiron, Mercury conjunct Chiron. We get to have this new conversation with the North Node, lunar North Node in Aries. Okay, where are we going now that we have a better idea of who we are? And then across from us, opposite from us, we know what we're leaving behind, you know, and even if you don't know exactly, again, it goes back to orbs of influence, right? You can kind of feel what you're leaving behind. And again, we start to trust, right? We move into this trust. We move into this, we just got out of Pisces season, so the surrender. But working with the cosmos, right? That's that Pluto in Aquarius. What are we trusting that we can leave behind? Because even though we can't see it, we can feel it coming in. So good Aries season. You guys want to pull a card? I've got my cards right here. Let's pull a card. They're staring at me. So let's pull a card. Let's pull a card for Aries season. And then maybe we'll pull a card for spring. So Aries season first, please. Okay. Knight of Pentacles. Perfect. So the Knight of Pentacles, just take it one day at a time, right? The Knight of Pentacles is thorough. He gets things done, but he stays in the present and he gets it just one day at a time. So see what's happening this Aries season. Just take it one day at a time. It'll bring in abundance, right? It'll be getting back in touch with the earth, which is perfect for spring. But also, as you can see, he's higher. He's got a higher perspective, right? He's above the land, as we were talking about earlier in the conversation of letting the air lift you, giving you a higher perspective. So you can see all the land and not just right down in front of you. Okay, on the bottom of the deck is the Four Cups, right? So if you guys are unhappy with the way things are looking outside of you, it's important for you to see what's inside of you, what the universe is giving you. Again, this is talking about getting your power back, right? Again, this is saying like, oh wait, like I actually have these skills. Instead of looking out there and expecting people to bring them to you or to do it for you, the universe is saying, no, you've got this. You need to look at all the things that I've already given you. And you need to capitalize on those, not in the sense of like making money, but like whatever it is you want to get done. All right, let's do a fair shuffle here, you guys. Well, we'll take victory. It's just good for Aries season. Oh, and look, it's still on the bottom, Knight of Pentacles. But so for spring, we have victory. So just know, and the victory is going to be seen by all. So this is a good spring season. Lots of shifts, lots of movements. We've been floating around in Pisces, so it's time to get on the shore, right? Dry out. I always say put on our sneakers whenever I think of Aries and Mars. We're always wearing sneakers. And set a normal pace. Just set a normal pace, okay? You can only do so much with these two hands in 24 hours, as I always say. So, all right, everyone, I will be back this weekend with the full moon forecast, if you will, and lunar eclipse. I hope you guys have a great day. Happy spring. Like I said, I couldn't be more excited. So if you guys have questions or you want a tarot reading or an astrology chart, just reach out to me. You can reach out to me over Instagram, my websites, and I'll leave some links below. Okay, till then.